Hey, how's it going? It's Jen. The more I think about the meaning of personal style these days, the more I end up with the conclusion that it's all about consistency. And of course, you can have your exploration or your trial and error phase, whatever you want to call it. But in order for you to truly maximize your style potential, I think there has to be more focus placed on depth than breadth. And while I think that gathering inspiration to develop this depth is such a crucial step, and I have a whole video on this topic of where to find style inspiration from if you're interested, I actually think that shopping is the most practical step in this whole process because this is where you decide on your input, on what you want to bring into your closet. So today I'm going to talk about 5 shopping rules to remember in order to help you stay focused on adding more depth and consistency to your style. And some of these are going to be like don't do this type of statements, and others are going to be some questions that you want to ask yourself. The first rule I like to keep in mind is not shopping with friends. Shopping can definitely be a fun experience and an activity to do with your friends, but personally, I don't really think it's helpful in building consistency in your wardrobe because you can easily be distracted by other people's opinions and their preferences. I mean, if you are at a complete loss when it comes to understanding your best silhouettes or colors, and if the main goal for you is to find the most objectively flattering styles, then maybe having a second set of eyes can be helpful. But I also believe that complete objective perspective doesn't really exist because opinions can't be 100% detached from one's own taste, especially if you're trying to develop more consistency with your style. You're the one that knows best what you have in your closet, and only you can make the decision on what's gonna work and not work with your current wardrobe, and sometimes having other people's input can cloud your judgment. So shopping with friends can be a fun idea and you can get useful input sometimes, but if you're looking for more efficiency or consistency or depth with your style, removing the external voices works best based on my own experience. The second rule I like to keep in mind is not getting fixated on sizing. I used to be that person that only stuck to browsing my size within the whole rack until I realized how much I'm actually missing out by not trying different sizes. And I know it's easier to just stick to a single size. And in my case, it also had to do with some body image related thoughts or beliefs I had about staying a certain size. Like I used to panic when my usual size didn't fit me the way I expected it to. But expanding your horizon to try different sizes can actually give you so much insight about the different ways that the same item can fit on your body. And it might give you a fresh perspective on what you actually prefer. Especially when you shop secondhand, it gives you a chance to explore a wider variety of styles that you've ruled out in the past simply because of sizing. And you might be surprised at what you end up finding. And I think this is the only rule on the list that allows you to explore more by playing around with fit. But it doesn't necessarily make you feel like you're compromising consistency or depth because you're only playing around with different sizes rather than vastly different styles. A potential downside though, of course, is that the whole process might take longer because you're looking at a wider range of items, so it might feel less efficient. And my personal preference is that I rarely look at sizes that are smaller than my usual size. I generally like exploring bigger and baggier fits, not tighter, but that's just a personal preference. The next rule I want to talk about is when you come across an item that you like, asking the question, would my style muses wear this item? And this is not about copying someone else's exact style, but more so about gaining clarity on the overall vibe. Because oftentimes when we like someone's style, we like the overall mood that they portray with their style, not the exact items that they're wearing. For example, if you like and admire the Olsen twins style, you probably like the relaxed and refined energy that they bring with their style. Kind of similar to the aesthetics of their brand, The Row. So for you, things like the quality of garment or fabric composition might be a very important factor to consider. And you might also want to avoid anything that's too fitted because you prefer an oversized and a relaxed look. Another example that my clients bring up a lot as a style inspiration is Emmanuel Alt. And if she's your style muse, then you might be drawn to like the natural, undone, French chic vibe that she creates with her hair and minimal makeup. You might also like some edgy details like dark colors or leather, or something that's a little more tailored and formal looking. So when you're browsing and you come across something that you like, asking the question, would my style muse actually wear this, can be a way of bringing the focus back to the overall mood that you want to portray with your style. And then you can break it down to the more elemental components based on the consistency of your muse's styles, like fit or details. Now, the next two rules have more to do with practicality, because in order for you to build consistency, you have to actually wear the items that you buy, and you have to use iteration to feel and experience the garment and get some practice with styling them. So the fourth rule I want to talk about is asking the question, is this ready to wear now? And this has nothing to do with seasonality. Sometimes you can get some great off-season deals, and personally, I wouldn't stop anybody from getting a nice summer dress on a steep discount during the winter season, as long as it's something that you know for sure you're gonna wear a lot. So what I mean by asking, is it ready to wear now, can actually be broken into two parts. The first part is whether the item needs any sort of alterations, or if it fits the way you want it to, just as is. It's easy to say, oh, I'll get the length cut, or I'll have it taken in around the waist a bit, etc. But the real question is, are you actually gonna do it? Because I've bought and sat on so many items for like more than half the year because I kept forgetting to take them to alterations. So these items just end up sitting in my closet and I never get to experience wearing them. I like the idea of these items, but I don't actually know how they feel. And even if you can commit to getting an item altered as soon as possible, have you considered the true cost of alterations into your purchase? And I'm not just talking about the dollar amount you're going to spend, but also the time and effort you're going to spend to remember and schedule the alterations, the time it takes to drive for drop off and pickup, the wait time in between. Or even if you know how to sew yourself, is it an easy enough job? Like, is it actually worth your time and labor? And then the second aspect to consider when assessing if an item is ready to wear is whether it fits me now as is, or is it what I think I can fit into once I reach a certain weight goal. And having a healthy goal is great, obviously, but I've made the mistake too many times where I would buy something to motivate myself to achieve a goal, only to never end up wearing the item. As I've said, a big part of developing consistency and depth with style is using iteration, and that means I need to be able to wear these items even on my worst days. Like, it shouldn't be an aspiration to wear certain items one day. This is actually something I'm experiencing with my pregnancy right now. There's a lot of items out there that I think I can wear once I give birth, but I'm deliberately holding off on purchasing them because I'm not going to be able to experience wearing these clothes for who knows how long. I don't know. This is my first pregnancy, so I have no idea. So the rule of thumb for me is if I can't practice styling the item for the next 6 months, then I shouldn't buy it because it doesn't contribute to building any sort of consistency in my style right now. And then the last rule I want to talk about is also related to the idea of iteration and is asking the question, am I gonna wear this often? And this is somewhat similar to the last question, and it also has two components, maintenance and fit. With maintenance, it's about how easy the item is to clean. For example, if it's a dry clean only item, again, are you going to schedule time to take this item to the dry cleaners regularly? Like, are you ready to actually make that commitment? Personally, I don't like those kinds of commitments. So if I'm buying something that's dry clean only, it has to be a winter item, like a winter jacket or coat or a very thick sweater. That way I know I'm only going to the dry cleaners a couple times a year. But if it's an item that requires more regular cleaning, like summer tops, for example, that are more prone to sweat, I avoid dry clean only materials altogether. I think color choices can be another way of considering maintenance because some colors might just not be suitable for your lifestyle. Like if you have little kids to take care of, for example, then you might want to avoid wearing lighter colors altogether. I try to avoid lighter colored bottoms during winter because I live in Vancouver where it rains a lot and I know the back of my pants are going to get dirty really easily. And then the second component to consider when you're thinking about how often you'll wear an item is obviously the fit. So you want to ask questions like, does this make me feel self-conscious about any part of my body? Can I actually sit down and move around? So when I try on garments in a change room, I actually try to make as big of movements as I possibly can. Carefully, of course, so I don't damage the garments. Or I might try to lift my legs up. If there's a chair, I might try to sit down or even squat down if there's enough space. I just want to make sure my body is not restrained in any way. So again, you need to be able to experience your clothes through lots of iteration if you want to build consistency with your style. But if you're not gonna reach for the item often enough, then it kind of defeats the whole purpose of adding the item to your wardrobe in the first place. So those are the 5 shopping rules or questions I like to keep in mind. Some of them are more specifically related to style and vision, and others are more of practical reminders. You need a good combination or balance of both sides, right? You want your items to meet your stylistic vision and also your day-to-day needs. So these are just some simple things to remember, which I hope you found helpful and relatable. I'll see you in my next video, and until then, stay unique and stay gorgeous.